So in our last session, we have talked about object-oriented introduction, and we explained Java class and object. Then we had exercise on creating a new Java class, and then create and initialize objects of this class. Okay, so yeah, today we will continue in the object-oriented topic, and we will discuss a new point, which is the Java methods or the Java functions. Okay, so yeah, today is very important topic. Please focus. I will start sharing my screen with you. You see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we already talked about objects, classes. Let's talk now about methods. So what is a method? Method is a block of code that perform a certain task. Okay, this task is kept in the function, which is used to expose the behavior of an object. Okay, so if I have a block of code that executes certain task and I want to keep it separated somewhere, so I put it in a method or in a function. Okay, and this function will not get executed until it get called. Like if I didn't call this method or this function, the code inside will not get executed. Okay, and we will see this like practically in a while. Okay. Second, methods in object-oriented programming help in code reusability and code optimization. Like if I have a piece of code which is kept in a function, I can easily reuse this code like multiple times in different places in my program. Okay. So it's very important when it comes to reusability and optimization. What else? Each Java program must contain a main method. Like you're already familiar with the main method, right? Like
Yeah, very.
Yeah, it's a method when you say public static void main.
Constructor too.
Main itself, it's a method, okay, which each and every Java program must contain. Like you cannot have a Java program without a main method. It's a must, okay? Okay.
Constructor as well.
Yeah, constructor is a special type of method, and we will not talk about constructor today. We will just talk about normal methods, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be in a rush. Just let's take it slowly, step by step, okay? Yeah, now let's see how to declare a method in Java. Method declaration provides information about method attributes, such as visibility, return type, name, and arguments. Okay, so here in this picture, you can see, like, I think you are already familiar with this shape. Like, these are all the components of Java function or Java method. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's check them one by one. Like first you have public, okay, which is access specifier, okay. Like it's not always public, like we have some other options like private or protected, but we will talk about this access specifier later, okay. Just know that first keyword which is used in method declaration is the access specifier, which for now we'll use the public keyword. But I just want you to know that public is not our only option. There are some other options that we will talk about them later. Okay? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first part. Second part is a return type. Okay? What is a return type? The same as the data type of a variable. Do you remember the data type of variables?
Yeah, the variables. But yeah,
Like we have primitive data types and non-primitive data types, and we have primitive are int, float, char, boolean,
yeah, like
long, double, right?
all those, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same here also in function or in method, but it's called a return type. Okay, what is a return type? We will talk about this when we go to the practical part. Okay, just know that every method should have a return type. Okay, okay. What is the third part? Like we are done now with access specifier return type. Okay, what is the third one? Third one is a method name, like the same as we have also in variable. Each variable should have a variable name. Same in methods or function, we should have method name. You can give it any name, but it should be meaningful. Like try to choose a name like related to the task performed by this method. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the return type here is somehow an output for the operation that this function will execute. Okay. In some cases, we need some input to this function to perform the task. So what are these inputs? It's called parameters. So as you can see, these parameters here is the last component or last part of our method, okay? And it's included in between two normal brackets like this one, okay? And it looks like normal variables like int A, int B, float A, string
Yeah.
C, whatever, okay? It's just normal variables acting as inputs for this function to perform its task correctly. Okay. Finally, we have the method body, which begins and ends with two curly brackets like this one, and this one. Here,
Some methods do. Some
here
methods don't.
what?
Do some methods don't have a body?
Yes, some methods don't have a body, uh, like called abstract methods, and we will talk about them later because abstraction is part of object-oriented programming. It's one of the main concepts of object-oriented programming. So we will discuss it later in a separate session. But for today, as I told you, we're gonna talk only about normal function, normal method. Okay. So for a normal method, it should contain a body like this with opening and closing curly brackets. And in between these brackets, we have the piece of code, okay, that will get executed. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, yeah, last thing I want to tell you, like all these four parts, okay, the access specifier, return type, method name, and parameter list are called method header. Okay, called method header. Okay,
Mhm.
all these four parts grouped together called method header, and the code in between these two brackets called method body. Okay, Okay. What about only these two last parts, which are method name and parameters? This called method signature. Like method name and parameters, okay, only are called method signature. Okay,
Mhm.
you understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
Does it something can there quotation marks? Can they can there be
sorry,
nothing inside, can there be nothing inside the parameter list?
can you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Can the parameter list be empty? No, nothing in between the
Yeah,
parameter list.
I will tell you. Like parameters are optional. Like some you will see some methods or some functions. It has two empty brackets like this. The brackets itself, okay, are mandatory. Like you cannot declare a method without putting these two normal or two ordinary brackets, okay, after the method name, okay. But these parameters in between these two brackets are optional. It depends on the type of task that this function will perform, whether it needs some input or not, okay. So yeah, these parameters are optional, okay, depends on the logic that you will perform. Sometimes it exists, sometimes it doesn't exist. Okay, and you can have as many uh, parameters as you need, like not only one or two or three, maybe four, maybe five, maybe six. It depends. Okay, and these parameters can have different data types. Like here we have two parameters, A and B. Both of them are of type integer, but it's not that like always you have parameters with the same data type. No, you can have parameters with different data types,
Mhm.
or you can have no parameters at all. As I told you, it's optional. But these other steps are not optional, like access specifier, return type, method name are not optional. But here is the tricky part. Uh, and this will be very obvious when we talk about examples in Java. Uh, in some cases, you will see only like the declaration contains only of the method signature without data type, without uh, access modifiers. Why? Because this has default value. Like if I didn't specify access specifier, it has default value for the access specifier. If I didn't specify a return type for my method, okay, it's okay, because it has default value for the return type. But there is no default value for the method name. You understand?
Yeah.
So if I specify a value here for the access specifier, it's okay. If I didn't specify, it will use the default value for the access specifier. But access specifier always exists, even if it's not visible to you.
I have a question.
It's not visible, but there is a default value exists and used by the function.
I have
Also,
a
the
question.
same applies to the return type, and we will see all this in details, okay, later on in the code when we go to the coding part, okay? For now, do you have any questions?
Yeah, return type. It can be
All
void.
this clear?
Can return type be public void?
Return type. Return type is an output,
Can it be
okay,
void?
for the task performed by this function.
Can it
Like,
be void?
as you can see here, we have parameters, for instance, are inputs needed by the function to perform the task. Okay, after we perform the task, maybe we have some output of this task. Okay,
Can it be public
this
void?
output of the task, like, can be considered as a return type. You understand? You will understand more like by
Can it be
example.
void?
When we give example of the return type, you will understand.
Can it be
Just
void?
for now, know that return type is an output of the task performed by this function.
Can it be void?
Is it clear?
Can it be void?
Clear or not?
Can it be void? I have a question.
Feel free to ask.
Can it be void?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Repeat, please.
Can it be void? Void.
Void. Yeah, void. Like it's
Can it be product?
also a return type. Okay. Like let's talk. Let's move on to the coding part. So we'll have
Okay.
some examples so you can understand all this.
Okay.
All this theoretical part. Okay, we will apply it in code now. So just wait for me a minute. Okay, and we will start directly to coding.